What's going on, guys? Pegasus and the Wise Guys, a Draco Sag combo, and why enemy controller is so good. That's also something we got to talk about. Let's get into it and talk about some
guys, so let's
text.
talk about it in the community page. This is how we're going to start off this video and talking about a little bit of the hidden stuff that I've been messing around with. And we had to mention on the community page just so you could kind of ask us before we could put it out and you could understand where we're coming from. I wanted to talk about some cards inside of Kashtira that are definitely going to at least need to be considered. Obviously, you guys know about a card like Light Force Sword, which can trigger off in the future stuff like the old Exceed, which is Shangri-La, as well as the new Exceed, which will be Arise Heart. Basically, when you banish, you get to attach anything to Arise Heart, and Light Force Sword is definitely one of those cards. And additionally, going down the list as far as some of these other cards that trigger stuff being banished face down and then trigger some of the other cards. Well, let's just get to the point. Enemy Controller is a card I wanted to talk about for the simple fact that, and I will show it in a specific scenario, cards like Kashtira, Unicorn, as well as cards like Fenrir are going to be in other people's decks, definitely Fenrir. And inside of a deck like this, where you get to special summon cards out on the field when you don't control any monsters, a card like Enemy Controller basically getting to take control of your opponent's cards is absolutely insane. Now, I could obviously add a lot more points, and I will be adding a lot more points as we go through the video, but I'll have to come back to that one. Banquet of Millions is another card that I wanted to talk about, basically because it triggers, again, the Arise Heart, as well as kind of activates as a pseudo Scythe Lock in a way, because you get to banish as many cards from your extra deck as they have if you want to. You're obviously going to want to summon some stuff first, or basically if you have your setup, this won't really matter for you, but banishing that many cards from their extra deck can almost be game in a specific scenario. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this. It's just something that I've noticed that could trigger off 1, the Shangri-La, 2, the Arise Heart, and then 3, Mind Hacker as well, because anytime stuff is banished face down, this could almost be an OTK because you're getting to banish that many cards. And if Mind Hacker is already in rotation and has already started to pop off with its effect, that can almost game your opponent by the time they get their turn back. Just something to consider, guys. It's very, very risky, but it could be an extreme FTK if you land it the right way. Just something to consider. Destrudo is another card because it's a level 7, duh. But obviously because it can trigger off of cards like Rise Heart, which is a level 4, which will exist in the future, as well as Psy Beast if you wanted to really commit to that and play this into the next format. You both either targets that or the Psy Beast can obviously trigger off summoning a level 7 synchro. Now, a level 7 synchro, you're thinking about, what in the world would I be summoning? Well, Black Rose is a card that comes to mind because it's a level 7, and whatever it minuses down will equal to a level 7, and if you land Black Rose or not, it is going to be a good thing. If they imperm the Black Rose, if they Veiler the Black Rose, well, now it's a level 7 body that's just on the field off of that Destrudo. If it lands, you get to wipe the board, and then again your monsters trigger off of being on empty fields. So either way, that's a pretty good thing in my opinion. Ibli as well as Link Karibo is the next thing I wanted to talk about. Obviously these two are clear options. You don't have to play this, and your opponents might not be playing this. It might just depend on whatever is in the format, but you have to have an answer for this card. A lot of people never really do have an answer or never prepared for Nightmare Corruptor Ibli, and they get stunned by it a lot because some people are picked to go blind second, not in a tier 0 format. But a card like Ibli can stun your growth, your ability to do anything, and inside of Kashtira, it is going to be a tech card that is going to be seen. Sprite is still going to be a thing, so obviously you should still expect to see this card. And a card like Link Karibo can be an exquisite choice, in my opinion, as far as getting out of the Ibli lock, as well as giving yourselves a little bit of added pressure with a card like Link Karibo making you invulnerable to traps, as well as a card like Preparations, which also can make you invulnerable to traps inside of Kashtira. Well, guys, that's just something that, again, you have to consider because the combination of those two can just push you over the top. And Ibli is a level 4 or lower Cyburst that is very, very smooth. Light Force Sword, again, is the card I wanted to mention because it can trigger off of Rise Heart, and because a pointer got hit. A pointer, in my opinion, I've said this countless times until I've talked people's ear off. A pointer got hit because Arise Hard is going to be a thing. And if you don't understand what I mean, you get to look at your opponent's hand, banish a card by paying the 2,000, reveal your own hand, then take a card from them and then banish it. When Arise Hard is on the field, each time something is banished, it gets to attach as material. So whatever you take, you can't Dark Ruler the deck, therefore you have to like kaiju them. If you flipped a pointer and the pointer was at 3, then anytime this deck would go first, it would almost be tier 0, especially with a normal trap card like a pointer. You would just be able to rip whatever answer they would have for Arise Heart and make it a material under Arise Heart. That's absolutely insane. And that's why a card like Light Force Sword is still going to be a possible tech choice, and whatever card that you banish can immediately become material, and they'll never get that card back. That's the game mechanic behind that. But again, guys, that's just something to consider. As far as showing off the list that they would actually be in, this is just currently what I'm messing around with. I had a profile the other day. This is my new profile. I found this card, Enemy Controller, that I talked about. Enemy Controller is freaking insane, and here's why I wanted to talk a little bit more about it in depth.
In case you've never seen it, effect, detach, special summon 2 tokens. 2 tokens, we'll use these, they're Reapers. Effect, to pop, link.
Part, guys, I just wanted to highlight specifically why with Enemy Controller I've been using this card. First off, and I'll just go down the list, in a mirror match, if you're thinking about the amount of decks that are tier right now, it's going to drop off considerably. It's still going to be a very, very high used deck. Hopefully we'll have a ban list by then. But everybody will still probably be playing Fenrir, and I don't think Fenrir is going to get hit before this deck really gets to its full power. Therefore, you should expect to see Fenrir still. And in that specific scenario, I've noticed that inside of a mirror match, dodging your opponent's Fenrir could be really, really key. So therefore, if they have one on their side of the field, Enemy Controller would dodge that. I feel like that's definitely something that needs to be considered. And if we're still expecting to see Telements, well, I mean, if we're expecting for it to be a deck that we're still going to have to deal with, then dodging a card like Solic by being able to take the target of the Solic completely off of the field to again let it resolve through a board is also very, very strong in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. This doesn't have to stick with you. I also feel that it could force the counter trap. Maybe they want to save it for a bigger card like a Dark Ruler, and then you being able to summon an effect monster for free like Unicorn, like Fenrir, and then being able to hit them with an econ, and therefore if they don't negate, which they probably have to, they're going to get their Rook Hallows taken. I definitely feel that that's something very, very strong as well. I wanted to mention as well that if you're playing this deck, if you're playing the pure Kashtira deck, or you're mixing it with stuff like Invoked, Purgatrio, and Mech Knights and stuff like that, having a lot of high attack monsters on the field, being able to punch for a lot of damage, it may not always equal game, but if they have a high attack monster that happens to be left on the field, which tier will do a lot of the time, most of the time they're going to burn through their effects, but being able to take a monster potentially and attack them for game with a high attack from your opponent's side by tripping off one of your cards, I also feel that that's very, very good. Next up, I wanted to mention that Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse are cards that have been mentioned. Oh, this card stops this, and this card stops. Yeah. Book of Moon stops the deck. You know, Mushroom Man. You've seen the cards like Mushroom Man number 2. Let me highlight that real quick. Where you basically give this to your opponent in the mirror. Yeah, Enemy Controller. Tribute it off. My field is clear. I take something that actually matters. You get what I mean? This is how many things that I've seen basically as far as like why Enemy Controller is so good. And I'm using it right now. I'm thinking about the future. It's going to be even better, and it's good right now in general. You guys have seen this already inside of a deck like Sprite, etc., etc. Don't let that get too far ahead of you, but it's just something that you have to pay attention to, as well as if I'm playing through an opponent's Mystic Mine, or if I'm sticking my own Mystic Mine, getting monsters off of the field is a good thing most of the time. Feel like that's kind of self-explanatory. If you're using Unicorn and you're using Birth, then being able to probably special Unicorn and try to activate its effect, maybe they try to stop it in some kind of way, again like a card like Solic, the Enemy Controller is going to take that card off of the field, take a card from them, force a counter trap potentially, and allow you to get Birth anyway to be able to pull that card back anyway. That's a free interaction, and that makes this a one card engine. Last but not least, I wanted to again mention Ibli in this scenario where tribute it off, take your opponent's monster, have to force it. You know, I mean, hey, that's just good. If you're playing at a mirror, a lot of people in the mirror are saying, "I'll just play Ibli." Okay, enemy controller. Now they see where they have to deal with it. That's pretty good. And taking an opponent's Arise Heart could be devastating inside of the mirror. So this is just stuff you got to consider, guys. Just stuff you got to consider, because there's no way that they can really interact with it on that level. Last but not least, I want to mention though, skill drain. If you're activating cards under skill drain and then chaining them in the enemy controller, they're going to resolve somewhere else in the graveyard potentially. Or if you have macro or die fight, they're going to end up in the banish pile, and they're still going to get to resolve their effects. Guys, I hope that these texts have helped you in a little bit. These are the hidden texts I was talking about. Let me know what you think about them down in the comments. I'll see you next time. Pegasus out. Arrivederci. Ciao.